Welcome back to the podcast. This is a very special interview. We have Miss Brooke Walker. Brooke, why don't you say hi and let us know a little bit about yourself? How old are you? Where are you from? What are we doing?
Hi guys, I'm Brooke Walker. I'm 18 years old, starting my freshman year of college at the University of Texas. Hook 'em. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I recently started tumbling here at Tumble Tech, and I'm super excited to be on the podcast.
Well, we are super excited to have you. For those of you guys who have been listening, this is our third interview, but we now finally officially have a name. We are the Technically Cheer podcast because we are Tech Cheer. And technically we talk about cheer, but we might also talk about some other stuff too. Guys, you guys have already heard, some really great guests. We try to bring you guys, stories that kind of come home and resonate and that can help us. We had Kat talking about jumps. We had Corey come in here and talk about tumbling. We've got Brooke here to tell us really an incredible story. And for those of you guys who don't already know her, I think in the next hour or so, you guys will have a really good grasp and really get to know her really well. We're super excited to have you today.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited to share my story.
Well, Brooke, tell us. So technically cheer. Why don't you tell us, how did you get involved in cheer? Where did you start? And just kind of give us a little bit of breakdown.
So my mom has always joked about seeing more of my feet in the air than my face because I would do cartwheels all around the house. So the minute I was able to start cheering for my middle school, I started cheering in school cheer around 4th grade. And I immediately fell in love, joined competitive cheer in the 7th grade, and haven't stopped tumbling, jumping, stunting since.
Cool. And I also know you have a twin sister, yes?
Yes, I do. She's my best friend.
Best friend? That makes sense. Is she a cheerleader?
No, she's not really on the athletic side of things. I love her, but not her forte.
So you got all the athletic genes. What did she get?
She is super sweet and kind. She makes great friends. She is honestly a great sister to have, and she's the same size as me, so we get to share clothes.
Twice the amount of clothes, half
Obviously.
the price. Perfect. So you started cheering in middle school, and then tumbling kind of became pretty natural to you. I know when we were talking a little bit in pre-interview, you had kind of a really rapid jump from when you started cheerleading, and it was like a 1 year or 2 years where you jumped really fast.
Yes. I started cheer pretty late as far as girls that start cheer. And so I came in and started on a level 1 team, and I wanted to get to level 6 as fast as possible. So I went to every single tumbling class, private lesson my mom would take me to, open gym. I was in the gym every single day. Every single one of the coaches knew me.
Awesome. So did you just start into cheer, or did you come already to cheer with a gymnastics background, or what kind of sparked this thing? You're just tumbling around the house and mom said, "Hey, cheer or bust, got to get you somewhere safe." Where did that come from?
Well, I was never in gymnastics except for little kid, toddler taught gymnastics. So I would honestly watch videos of people doing cool tricks and learn them at home. And then my mom was like, we have to get her in a cheer class. And I just, I love tumbling. So it was something that I always wanted to do. It took me forever to get my back handspring. But then once I got my back handspring, I shot up to layouts the same year.
Wow. So that's a huge jump. I mean, especially for those of you guys on your cheer journey, sometimes we're spending, a year or two mastering handsprings and serious handsprings. So you went from getting a handspring to doing a layout in the same year.
Yeah.
It's a big jump. So champion cheer, I know kind of that's where you came from. That's where I first heard about you. Is that where you started, where you finished?
Yes, that is the only place that I've cheered competitively. I started on a junior level 1 in 7th grade, and then I ended on their senior level 6 Worlds team. Got 2nd at Worlds this past year. It was amazing.
Nice. And Jennifer, shout out to Jennifer Graham. We love Graham family. Homeboy Ryan Chance, best name ever. But we've got some really great friends in the program, as you know, and if you've kind of come to know, cheerleading is a very small world.
Definitely.
you know one person who knows that other person, whether it's whether that's in Dallas or whether that's in Estonia or Italy or wherever it is. It's so weird how close everybody's connected. And I think that as we get into this a little bit more, your story and kind of everybody's gonna, the light bulb's gonna turn on and be like, oh my gosh, we do know exactly who she is. So why don't you tell us a little bit more? So we've got we're going to kind of get into the meat of this story here, but you second at Worlds,
Yes.
a UT cheerleader, but something kind of happened before that, and this is the reason you guys and she same thing. Like here we are, but tell us a little bit about more of your story.
Okay, so during my junior year of high school, second semester, I was on my level 6 worlds team, and around the week of NCA, so big competition week, I started feeling some pain in my leg, but I had to push through, NCA week.
NCA week, everything's
Everyone's
on the table.
hurting.
Everybody's hurting.
So it's like, gotta push through, like there's a big competition coming this week. So I ended up going to practice, going home in tears, not being able to sleep at night, but still like showing up at practice the next
pushing,
day.
icing, stretching, it'll go away. Hopefully you get through NCA, see what happens.
Just hope and pray that it goes away and push through it. And I mean, that's normal as a cheerleader. You have so many injuries that you just get used to pushing through them and you don't realize when one is a little bit more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up competing at NCA day 1 and 2, hit my routine both days. It was awesome. Even when I was in pain, walked off the floor crying. My teammates helped carry me. But I went home from NCA day 2, went to sleep, woke up at 2 in the morning in like the most extreme pain that I've ever felt. And I went to my mom. I was crying, tears. Like, I was like, this is something wrong. Like, this is not normal. This is more than like what I thought it was. And then she set an appointment for 8 o'clock the next morning at urgent care. So the next morning I get up, I go to urgent care, and he's like, okay, nothing to worry about, but I do want you to go get some imaging of like your veins, because he had determined that it was like a blood flow problem in my leg that was causing all this pain. So I ended up going to an imaging place where they did 2 different tests, one for my veins and one for my arteries. And they found out that there were some blood clots in my arteries. And they said that with the concerning numbers and the decreasing lack of blood flow, that I should get to the hospital right away. So my mom drove me home. She was like, pack a bag. I was like, there ain't no way. Like, I'm staying the night.
So from NCA day 2 to 2 a.m. to urgent care to back home to the hospital in less than 24 hours.
Yes, it was like a crazy like whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know what was going on. I still thought I was going to school that day after like I got treated at the hospital, but I didn't end up going to school.
Yeah. So you got the imaging back. They sent you to the hospital. What happens? Where do we go from there?
So at the hospital, I did a full day of tests, hearing like almost nothing. Like, I just was test after test after test. And I have like a lot of trauma with medical stuff. Like, it's always been my biggest fear. So of course I'm the one that ends up in the hospital.
Is it fear from Grey's Anatomy? I've seen so much trauma on the television.
My sister watches Grey's Anatomy and I can't stand it. Like, if she wants me to leave the room, she'll turn that on and I'll be like, I'm gone. Like, that's too much trauma for me. No, it's just like ever since I was little, shots, anything that I had to do in a hospital, like my heart rate was through the roof. Just a general anxiety, panic about hospitals for like no
general.
reason whatsoever.
So you head to the hospital, and then they've seen the results from the artery and from the vein scan, and then what?
And then I hear at like 9 o'clock that night that I am in fact staying the night at the hospital. Never done that before. It was a little bit scary, but I ended up staying the night in the pediatric ICU on like a blood thinner, like IV tube that really relieved a lot of the pain. Like, I had a really great night that night, slept well. I was like, all right, I'm fixed. And then the next morning I realized that I'm being transferred to the adult unit because there's no such thing as a pediatric vascular surgeon.
Okay.
So I get transported across the street and I get told that I'm having surgery that night.
Surgery. So they saw blood clots. Not sure where these are coming from. Put you on blood thinners. You feel better. You think you're going home. And now next thing you know, you're seeing a vascular surgeon at the adult hospital.
Yes. And I thought that like the blood thinner was going to be all that I needed. Like, that was going to be fixed. I still didn't think much of a big deal about it. I said, okay, like get a little fix and then go back to life. But he was going to do a surgery where he went in and tried to clear out like the blood vessels so that just to return blood flow. He said it was a super easy surgery. It should work great. And then I should be home within the week. Okay.
So did you have surgery that day?
Yes, I had surgery like late that night. I was starving because I didn't get to eat anything all night. And I went into surgery. He did it. It worked for like about a day before it failed. And then the next day I ended up having another surgery as a result of it because I had some major swelling in my leg and I had to have a fasciotomy to relieve some of the pressure.
Now that's where the skin swells up, right? And it's just so much pressure in the skin that it's almost like putting too much air in a balloon.
Yes, yeah. So they had to make an incision and release all that pressure.
And so, and then I know from talking to you earlier, this was the second surgery of 3 days of surgery in a row.
Yes. So after the fasciotomy, the next day, they ended up bringing in a specialist to like go out and like clear any veins, any arteries to see if he could get any life back in the foot. And that only worked for a couple hours before it failed. And that was a long, like 9-hour surgery.
So did they ever figure out what the root cause of this was? Or I know you know, we went and you did blunt thinner surgery number 1, surgery number 2, surgery number 3, and they all, you know, worked for a second and then something was failing. Did we ever find out what was really going on?
So we don't know exactly what caused the arterial clot because it's really rare for someone like, because I was active and healthy and young.
Fit, cheerleading,
yes.
On the move.
Like this is something
right,
that happens
things.
normally like older, like diabetics. Like it was very rare that it had happened to me, and doctors still don't know exactly what caused it. Some of like the theories is that either it was a result of COVID, because I never knew that I had COVID, but I did have antibodies for it. So they were like, maybe that's a result of COVID. Others were like, maybe it's an injury that you gave yourself while tumbling and your body tried to heal from it. And that's like where it started.
Mm-hmm. So we've had our third surgery in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 didn't work. Number 2 was a result of number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 was a result of probably number 1 and number 2. And then where are we?
So a lot of the first 2 weeks of the hospital, I was on a lot of like pain medication. I was under a lot. And when I wasn't under, I was so exhausted that I was like sleeping. So I didn't really move a lot the first 2 weeks, and I don't remember a lot of it. I know that my parents were there the entire time with me. Love them. But that was a super hard 2 weeks. I remember having visitors and only being able to like talk to them for 20 minutes before I pass out, because I like wouldn't.
Your body was physically exhausted.
My body was so exhausted, and my mind couldn't like handle it from all the pain medications I was on, and I was like constantly sweating and hot, and it was just a really like difficult 2 weeks.
And you lost a lot of weight too, right?
Yes. No, I didn't eat for the longest time because the pain medications made me so sick, and whenever I would eat something, I would throw it back up, which is no fun. So I just didn't eat.
Ended up losing what, 40 pounds?
40 pounds.
40 pounds in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. And then so we've had 3 surgeries. They give you kind of a 2 weeks to wait and see, you know, what cheer teams coming to visit, families coming to visit, friends are coming to visit, and still nobody knows anything, right?
Yeah. Well, it was just a long period of waiting. Somewhere along the line, I did start getting like a little bit better, regaining some of my strength, and I got to move like upstairs to a bigger room, which was really great. And then like I felt better. I started like talking to other people. I had like a big window, and I used to sit on the chair.
No longer in solitary confinement.
Yes.
You can look outside.
No, the ICU rooms like feel like a prison. They have this little tiny window in the corner, and you can't see anything out of it.
And your ICU, the light, you know, they're 24 hours, right? There's people running about. There's lights on. There's noises. There's things going on. I mean, I can imagine. And you were in there for 2 weeks?
2 weeks, and you never get time to relax in the ICU. So moving up to have my own door that I can close and be like in my own time, having a bathroom in my room, it was so nice.
Nice. And so we're you know, for somebody who is violently against hospitals, who has a tremendous anxiety about hospitals, now we're 3 weeks into hospital time. And then the doctor comes in and he wants to run some more tests. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had this doctor. I mean, I'd seen a lot of doctors, but I hadn't seen this particular one before. I realized he was like one of the higher up, you can kind of tell. And he came in and he did like a Doppler test on my ankle, which is to like check the pulse. And then he like asked me to move my foot, and I couldn't. Like there was just no movement in my foot. I couldn't do anything. And so then he asked to talk to my parents out in the hall, and he pulled them out into the hall, and he was like, I mean, I don't know what he said to him. I was in the room. But my parents came back in, and they were crying, and they were like, I kind of knew what was happening in the back of my mind as much as I didn't want to believe it. So I like looked at them and I asked them, I was like, am I going to lose my leg? And they were like, probably the foot, but we're going to keep trying. And it was right then and there that they asked me, they were like, whatever you want to do, we'll support you. Whether you want to continue and cheer, or whether it's like not something you want to keep trying to do, then we'll love you either way.
So in the back of your mind, this is something that you've probably thought about a few times while you're in the hospital already. And at this point in time, the doctor comes in and says this, you know, and parents, right? You probably see it on their face, and then reality sinks in. What kind of emotions were you going through as it came from a possibility to a reality?
I feel like the whole time I was in the hospital, I was like battling with like, is this actually going to happen? Because still at that point, I was like a week to 2 weeks out from like actually having the amputation. And I still didn't believe it was going to happen. I was like, maybe, but probably not. Like something's going to happen. Like this isn't going to actually, like, I'm not going to actually lose my leg. Like they're going to figure it out.
And so now we're really talking about an amputation or partial, right? And I know that they had talked about possibly at one point in time trying to do a partial of just the foot. And then where and when did you guys decide? And then what was the final result of amputation?
So I was in my room and this prosthetist came to visit me. I love him. His name's Scott. He's awesome.
Shout out Scott. Thank you, buddy.
He has like a family-owned prosthetist business, and he came to visit me, and he like talked to me about like how I could get back into cheer and how he was going to find a way to make sure I could do whatever I wanted to do with a prosthetic leg. And he really like encouraged me. He was like, okay, this is like an actual opportunity. Like you're going to live a better life than like partial foot, ankle fused. Like you'll never return to cheer that way. You won't be able to like walk without a limp.
So he sat down, and I can see, I can hear it in your voice and just see it in your eyes that, the way that you care about this person who came in and said, if this is what you want to do, here's where we need to go. Here's what we need to do. And he had a plan for you, and you bought in, right? Because deep down inside, when your parents talk to you about it, you're like, I'm coming back. I'm going to cheer.
Yeah. Well, and he's like showed me videos of like these other athletes. He had one that had like run a marathon, one that had climbed a mountain, one gymnast that had learned to tumble again. And he showed me that like whatever I wanted to do was possible, and he was going to find a way.
So now we have a plan, and they go in, and then they do. Where do they end up, amputating?
So I have an amputation about mid-calf. Since my foot, like the blood clots were right in my ankle, so the foot was the only part that was really struggling. They got the chance to like pick the best spot on my leg so that I could be very functional with a prosthetic leg. So I'm about like halfway down my calf is where.
And for those of we have a lot of kids, we have a lot of parents and families who are listening. Some of them may be familiar with this, some of them might not. My uncle actually was in a really bad motorcycle accident, remembers nothing, and woke up, without a leg at all. He was right above the knee, but you actually got to have time to kind of process this and prepare for this and make a plan for this, and I think that everybody, you kind of said, here's what I want to do, here's where I want to go, and they made the best option, and here we are.
No, and I can really look back at it and see how lucky I was that I had so many people around me that cared of me, that were able to like comfort me the whole time, because I have met people who like car accident, wake up, don't have a leg, or like they wake up one morning fine, something happens, and they've lost a limb by the end of the day. And it's a terrible, like scary thing to think about, that it could happen to anyone, anytime. But I was lucky in my, like, the people that surrounded me and the circumstances I was in, that I was able to go into it like that.
Yeah. And that's really incredible. And so now the trend, we've had the surgery, right? We go home. Right? Transition. And I know you were in an upstairs bedroom.
Yes.
Now we get to switch it, change it, rearrange it, maybe bigger room and a TV.
Yes. So I switched rooms with my brother because I wasn't like ready to climb stairs yet, one-legged, but I switched to the downstairs bedroom, had my big bed. Like I was so excited to not sleep in the hospital bed anymore. Had some TV, watched my Gossip Girls. I had a member from my church make me like some quesadillas and like Mexican food. Like she had made warm Mexican food and delivered it to us. Yes, and like that was the best food I ever tasted. I was like,
you've been losing weight. You've been in the hospital for a month. You have all this stuff going on, and now we're back.
Well, I finally felt normal again. Like all the tubes, all the PICC lines and medicine that was in me, like it was all out of me, and I finally felt like human being again, back in my own house eating food.
And so we're over a month in, right? And then we don't go back to school that semester, right?
Yeah. I ended up doing like a homebound process where a teacher from my school, who was actually like my assistant cheer coach from my high school, came and like did my school with me at my house. We didn't do much school. We just chatted the whole time.
I don't know if we put that in there.
Maybe.
but
It's
we
all right, I
got
got my
into UT,
diploma,
right?
so.
We get that grade pump up. But so we take that semester, and then what does this road to recovery look like? Where does this start? Did you kind of come home in a wheelchair? Were you on crutches? And then when did you first get fitted with a prosthetic, and what was that like? Relearning how to do these things.
So when I first came home, I was in a wheelchair or like a walker because I was really weak and it was hard to hold my own body weight up. So I had to have someone help me to like move around. And then as I regained strength, I was able to like switch to crutches, which I liked because they're more mobile. And I was in a wheelchair when I like went out. And I went to my cheer practices. I would watch from the sidelines, maybe put up a stunt or two from my chair. But I really couldn't do much. Like I did what I could. Physical therapy. I went to the gym. I would work pull-ups and arms and stuff. I got lots of arm workout from that.
Yeah, I'm strong upper body being on crutches. So you're on crutches or in a walker, and you're back. You're showing up to games and you're stunting.
Yes, well, I had made a goal that like when I came back, I was going to be as strong as I was before. Like I might have to relearn how to walk, but the rest of my body needs to get its strength back because it had lost a lot of strength in the hospital from not moving for a month.
And what was that like for you getting back onto the field or into the gym the first time and being able to do something that was so important to you? And was that scary? There's part of a foot, and then what's that trust look like for you, right? You have to trust that your base is in, that you're flying your back spot, or that everybody's going to do their job. Mm-hmm. And they also have to have a lot of trust in you too, right? Like, hey, let's do this. What if this goes wrong? Where do we go from here? What's that like?
Well, like the first time I came home from the hospital, I couldn't crutch across the house without stopping in a chair. I was like, I am so out of shape. Like I can't even like crutch across the room. That's when I realized that I had to like kick it into shape, like start doing something.
So number one, fitness plan.
Yes, it was really hard to work out without a leg. So I like went to physical therapist, and I remember I visited this first physical therapist, and he asked me like right off the bat, he asked me what my goals were, and this was before I even had a leg, and I was like, I want to return to cheer. I want to tumble again. And he looked at me and he was like, that's probably not going to happen. Like that's not a possibility I see in your future. And we didn't go back to him.
Yeah,
we went and
so
found
he's
somebody
gone.
else.
He's gone. You don't believe in the dream. You're not going to buy in. You're out.
Yeah, and now I'm tumbling, so it's all good.
And so Scott's on board.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are on board. Sisters on board.
Yeah.
Teams on board. Gyms on board. Communities on board.
Yes.
And then what is that like? I mean, the support system that you had to have, not only in the house but outside, right? Was this when we wore teal? I remember. And you can dig in. I'll let you talk about that. But is this about that time?
Yes. So like the whole cheer community really gathered around me. People I didn't even know were sending me gifts and messages, and cheer gyms across the country were wearing teal because like that was their way of showing support because that was my favorite color. So they all show up and wear teal. And like when my team competed, they all wrote my name on the bottom of their left shoe to like just as a symbol to be like I was with them out there on the floor, even though I couldn't be because they were competing in like Chicago that week.
Mm-hmm. And so we talked a little bit about how close-knit and how small, the cheer world really is. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you to just receive kind of this outpouring of support and prayers and motivation and things from total strangers all over the country, all over the world, right?
It was really incredible to see like how much these strangers were able to step in and care about me. Like I had a GoFundMe, like reached its like goal within a week with people I didn't even know. And they were sending prayers and gifts, and they were like, we're here for you. They like these people that didn't even know me believed in me so much that they knew they were going to see me like on the cheer stage someday.
And that's just got to feel incredible. And so now we've got rid of physical therapists who was not on board with our goals.
Got rid of him.
We've got a new one who's on the same page and pushing us. Walk us through, PT. When do we first get fitted with a prosthetic? And I know we kind of glazed over it a little bit before, but what is that truly like? How difficult was it to do something that now you've been doing for 16 years, and something that you and I and our producer over here, Rad, and everybody in the gym really take for granted, right? We don't think about walking, we just do. And now we've pressed a 16-year reset. What is that like, and what kind of walk us through what that is?
So I got fitted for my first prosthetic probably like late July, and I went into my prosthetist. He had to make a cast of my leg so that the prosthetic would fit my leg right. It took about a week for him to make the first one because the first like a starter prosthetic that you start with is a little bit stiffer so that you can learn how to walk without like so much ankle mobility. And so that's how I started. And I remember crutching in there, him fitting me for it, and I like walked on these parallel bars. I was like holding the parallel bars so that I could like start to walk. And I took my very first step and I was like, oh, this is so hard. Like this is gonna be so much harder than I thought.
Feel like a baby deer.
I know. I was like, how do people walk on this? It was so much harder than I thought it was be. I thought I'd be walking out of there that day, and I was still on crutches for another couple of weeks because I didn't realize like how hard it was to relearn to walk on a prosthetic leg.
And so we're going to fast forward a little bit because there's a really cool part of this story that I want to make sure that we get to touch on is, you know, something that just kind of catapulted your, you know, recovery of something that takes people months and months and months. And all of a sudden you're on the fast track. So tell us about your trip to Greece.
Okay, so like a week after I got my prosthetic leg, my parents had this trip planned to Greece for like a long time. And when I was going through my stuff in the hospital, they talked about canceling it. And I was like, no, like I will be in Greece. Like I was a big goal of mine. I had always wanted to go to Greece. I was so excited for this trip. So I was going whether I was on crutches or in a wheelchair. So I have my prosthetic leg. I'm on crutches, and we went to Greece, which is not a very wheelchair friendly like European countries. They're so old.
Hills, old
the
roads.
Yes, the rocks on the road. Like I was crutching all the way around Greece because I wanted to see and do everything. And I think that's what like got me learning how to walk so quick is because I was just determined to see everything.
Yeah.
And
determined not to let this thing get you down. You're like, yes. Here we are. What do we do?
I was like, it's Greece. I'm here. I'm seeing and doing everything. And there was this one time we were having donkeys. We were like riding donkeys up the side of Santorini, like this big staircase, and the donkey people didn't really speak English very well, so I couldn't communicate with them clearly, and we got halfway up the stairs and they stopped, and they were like, okay, you'll just walk the rest of the way up. And I didn't have my crutches. My dad had my crutches at like the top of the stairs, and I was like, I really can't walk. Like there was lots more stairs left to go.
So donkeys only go halfway. People
I know,
go the
I wish they would have
rest.
told me that.
Language barrier. Surprise.
I was like, oh, okay. So I end up like holding on to the side of like the wall because there's not a stairwell, you know, it's like a couple 100-year-old like stairway right there.
It's not ADA compliant in Greece on the side of a mountain being brought up by donkeys.
So I'm like hobbling my way up the stairs, but honestly, it was probably a really good exercise for me.
It usually that learning curve is quite a long time, but you know, you kind of said, and it seems like just every just different chapter in the story, you're like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I want to do. We're going to Greece. I'm going to stunt. I'm going to cheer. But there's something else you're going to do. We're going to tumble.
Yes. No, tumbling for me was one of my favorite things to do in cheer. I mean, I would say it was my favorite thing. I was at every tumbling class. I love the feeling of tumbling. Even though I was never like really the best tumbler, it was my favorite thing to do. And it wasn't something I was ready to give up yet. Yeah.
So we went from handsprings to layouts, and now just kind of like, you know, we're running, we're 17, 18, almost
17.
About to turn 18. And now we press reset again, right? Mm-hmm. Walk us, what is, you know, okay, I've got fitted, right? And I'm sure it's a special prosthetic to kind of do more physical activities, but how do you start to tumble again?
So my prosthetist designed like a special cheer leg. Someone donated like a specialty foot, like a one-of-a-kind cheer foot for me to like learn how to tumble on. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then I start tumbling, and I was like, I was so timid when I first started tumbling again because I was afraid like to land on my leg and jolt it. And I met this one girl. She had been a gymnast at OU. And then after she had graduated, she ended up going through some complications and losing her leg. So she had the experience of both being a tumbler and having a prosthetic leg. So she helped me a lot with like relearning how to tumble and like even walking, because at that time I was still walking with a limp, and I was like figuring out the logistics of walking and tumbling and doing everything with a prosthetic leg.
So she's got this, you know, hybrid background, and she was a, you know, OU, a UT. I don't know if you still like her or not.
Love her, okay? She does have an OU leg, so I told her when she comes up for a game, she's gonna have to wear pants.
Perfect. So, and then also your high school coach, right? Did some special training too to really help kind of guide you and help get you what you needed. What was your coach doing?
So the gymnastics coach at my school, he also did like tumbling classes for the cheerleaders. Loved him. He was awesome. Loved teaching like girls how to tumble. And he had like met with someone outside who had taught another girl how to tumble with a prosthetic leg. And he had talked about like how he would teach me. And so he went out of his way on his own time to learn about like tumbling with a prosthetic so that he could come back and help me. And I just think coaches like Missy and Moss, which are their names. Missy is the OU gymnast, and then Moss was my school cheer coach. And I just think having them, like I would not be where I was if they didn't fully believe that I was capable.
And that's what it just, as we go through this incredible story, we have Scott, we have Missy, we have Moss, we have mom, dad, sister, and, this entire cheer world just, ready and prepared to help you get to where you want to go. So now we're tumbling, right?
Took a very long time to tumble. Lots of trampoline time. I had to warm myself back into it, which was really frustrating because I was like, I've put in the hours, I've put in the work to get where I was. Like, I didn't get there by accident. Like, I worked out. I was strong. I was in every tumbling class. And to have all that, like, feel like it was erased and I had to start all the way over was like devastating to me.
Yeah, all the muscle, a lot of it is muscle memory and hey, getting over, hey, I'm going backwards, hey, I'm doing this. And now that muscle memory's changed, right?
Yes.
Where we have, two legs to jump off of. We still have two legs, but now that changes the dynamic, right?
Yes.
We push through toes and we do some of these things that most people don't think
do
twice
now.
about. Yeah. So walk us through handspring.
Okay. So I learned it on the trampoline first. Then I had spots for a while. I remember the first time I did a back handspring on my own, I was having like an interview with a news crew. They had like come in, I think it was Fox News. They had come in to like do a little story about me. And I was doing some spots with my coach. And he was like, why don't you do it on your own? News is here. Like, it'd be so cool if you just did a back handspring on your own. So I was like,
no pressure. No pressure.
I was like, okay, but if I bust, y'all are going to cut this, right? Like, but I ended up going and I did it. And I was like, all right, like I'm doing stuff on my own again. Like I flipped my body over on my own. Like it's pretty cool.
And that was fuel, right? So handspring, check. Mm-hmm. Now what's next?
Then we had to move on to tucks, which is hard to get the angle because of my like prosthetic had a flat foot and I couldn't push through my toes. Whenever I would rebound, I would like go to the side because I would push through one toe, but then I couldn't push through the other toe. So it'd be like round up, I can't spring, rebound, land over here. And I had to learn how to like use my quads and like use different parts of my leg to send me more straight up and less crooked. Mm-hmm. I still go a little bit crooked, but like we don't have to talk about it.
So do we start? I'm guessing we start on a trampoline.
Yes, and trampoline. Spots, really scary the first time I decided to throw a tuck, but I had that like really good spotter coach who like picked me up and flipped me and made sure that I felt really secure in it. Mm-hmm. And like when you have a really good spotter, that's when you feel safe throwing the skills. So then I was able to like start doing more and more on my own. And I got spotted for a long time because I was not ready to do it on my own. I was not ready to land it on my own. The thought of like landing on my leg really scared me. So I always had my spots catch me and like slow down my landing on the way down. And then my coach, Moss, I was with him and he was like, all right, you're ready to throw it on your own. Like, you don't need a spot anymore. You're so ready.
Just let it rip.
No, I was not ready. Like, mentally, I was not prepared for this at all. I was like, wait, I'm not ready. Like, you have to spot me one more time. And he was like, no, you are. And he stepped away and he looked at me and he was like, you're ready. Do it. And in all my like adrenaline rush, I was so scared. But I was like, if I don't do it now, like, I might never do it. Like, I just need to get this, like, rip the Band-Aid off, throw a tuck. Like, I know I'm going to get past my head. It's not going to be too bad. And I went and I did my first round of back handspring tuck. All my friends like ran up to me, hugged me, and I was like crying. I was like, yes, I'm back. Like, let's full now.
Right. Next step. And so now fast forward to now, right? We're doing layouts.
Yes.
Are we working fulls?
I am working fulls. So I have my full back on the trampoline. I hope to throw it on the rod floor soon because it's looking really good on the trampoline again. The main thing though that I need to focus on is my standing tuck, which will be the death of me because I'm jumping off a flat foot. So it's so hard to get the vertical that I had before.
Right. You're doing a skill, for that you have zero, running, tumbling, different story, right?
Yeah.
We're creating acceleration, we're creating momentum
power.
to get height. To tuck makes it easier. And now standing tuck, not only are we starting from zero, but we're really starting, instead of jumping off of two legs, we're jumping off of one.
Yes, because my prosthetic, the more I push into it, the more it gives back. So in running, tumbling, I'm able to hit the ground hard and it can give me spring back. When you're getting ready for a standing tuck, you just bend your legs and go. Like, I'm not giving my prosthetic leg anything for it to give back to me. So it is like doing a tuck on one leg.
And so we're baking a cake and the standing tuck is kind of the missing ingredient, right? So I know, and I love this part of the story is we tried out for UT Cheer.
Yes. So I tried out for UT Cheer last year, but because of my standing tuck and like my standing tumbling there, I wasn't ready to make it yet, which it was so soon, like after I had lost my leg. Like, I was just proud that I was throwing running tucks and, I was like getting there. But I didn't end up making it, which is fine because I have a whole nother year to get stronger. And I do plan on trying out again once I get my standing tuck, which is pretty soon now. I did it on the rod floor the other day.
Nice. So we're working standing tucks. Next goal, we're checking boxes, right? You went from this after NCA to losing, our foot to tumbling in what, a year?
Yes.
In 1 year, and now we're throwing layouts and we're working standing tucks. Is that the next goal on the list? Is to check the box and become a UT cheerleader?
Yes. No, I love cheer, fell in love with cheer, always been an athletic person, tried other sports, tried soccer, tried volleyball, and like I never fell in love with anything like I did cheer. And I did it for so long, both with my school and competitively. Like, it's something I'm in love with and I'm not ready to give up. And even though I have to take a little break this year from being on like the sidelines at a football game or on a comp floor, I really hope that I can be back.
And so thank you for just sharing this really, really cool story. And I know you've, because of this, you've had the opportunity to go and to speak to different groups about it and tell your story. Kind of tell us a little bit about, where you've gone and some of the opportunities that you've had to share.
So one of the main things that I like to focus on when I'm telling people about my story is my testimony and how like my faith, and I'm like a Christian, so my faith has really helped me get through it. And I believe that God had a plan for me this entire time. And so when it gets really hard, I have to like think about that. And through sharing that, I've been able to talk at like churches. I've talked at men's and women's breakfasts. I talked at this retreat at a church down in Houston called Champion Forest. And for like their whole like youth group, middle school and high school, there were so many kids, like thousands of kids there. And I got to talk to them about like my story and how I had faith in God through it all and how everyone is dealing with their own obstacles, whether you can see it like mine or like you can't see it, and how God has a plan for you through it all and you can keep pushing.
And that's really incredible. And so you also, went to Woodlands Elite. You got to share your story with those athletes as well. Shout out to the crew over there. It's a really incredible group of people.
Love Woodlands Elite.
And I think you just touched on something that's really important. Your story is not identical to most stories by a long shot, but there's a lot of commonalities, right? There's an obstacle to overcome, whether it's a mental obstacle or a physical obstacle or a financial, some sort of obstacle is in the way. But if you set your goals, if you have faith, if you believe in a plan and create a process, there's really nothing that you can't do or attempt to do and push yourself.
Exactly. And that was the main thing that I wanted to share with these kids that I talked to. Like, I went to this one business meeting for like Edward Jones, like regional business meeting. And it was at the end of their retreat and they brought in like all their families, a whole like line of little kids sat in front of me and they were all like watching me as I spoke. And I got to share with these families like, yes, hard things happen, but good things can come through it. And like at the end of that end of talking to them, some like grown man came up to me, tears in their eyes. They were like, we serve such a good God. And I'm so glad that you're out here like telling your story for other people. And like hearing things like that makes me realize that like I do have a story to tell. Like I have a mission, to share God's love, like how he saved me, to share it with other people.
Yeah. And then we segue a little bit to something, let's talk a little bit about Bethany Hamilton.
Yes. Okay. Bethany Hamilton. She my bestie.
For those that don't know, give us a little bit of background. I know Radden, our producer here, could kind of go into really big detail about Bethany Hamilton, but give us a little bit of background and how this ties into your story.
So for y'all that don't know, Bethany Hamilton was a surfer from Hawaii who lost her arm in a shark attack. And she started this retreat called Beautifully Flawed. And it's for women ages 14 to 24 that have experienced limb loss. And if you're older than that, but you've still experienced limb loss, you get to be a leader for like the younger ones. And last year, October, I went on a retreat in San Diego, California. We surfed, we made like flower crowns. We did a whole photo shoot where they had people come in and do our hair and makeup, make people feel beautiful. Because some girls, like, they can't do their makeup. Like, either they don't have arms or they just have one. And I met so many other beautiful young ladies who had been through tragic accidents and were seeing, like, the beautiful side of it, They were looking at the good side. It was very faith-based. Like, they wanted to show us that God had a plan for us all and that we were all loved no matter like how we felt on the inside. And
so everybody there has a common ground, which probably isn't super common for young females. Is it females only?
My retreat was females only. They do have a men's retreat. It's called Forge, which was the week afterwards. But I heard great things about that too.
So is it all athletes? I know she was, shark attack, lost her arm, and she's like, no, just similar to your story, like, I'm gonna surf. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know. It's just in me, and this is something I'm going to do. Is that something that, you guys had this common ground, you have this commonality, you're meeting, people from all over the country, and it just gives you guys a really cool opportunity to talk to each other and share stories?
Yes, well, I met so many women from like different walks of life. There were high schoolers, there were college students, there were women who had graduated and were in workplace. There were women who weren't yet like recovered from what they had been through and still hadn't been out like in a community. And it's hard to feel like you feel like the only one when you're in a world full of like four-limbed people, and to go on that retreat and to meet other people. Like, I met some wonderful people that still inspire me, and I keep up with them because like we still will always know that we have each other if we ever have a question. Like, the older women who had been through this, they were giving us advice, and the younger ones, like, I was making friends with them. It was just an insane experience. And now you're into surf culture, right? Yes, we surfed. I love surfing. Someday I'll live in Hawaii. We're checking the weather report. Yes, I have the app on my phone, the like Surfline app, and I'll tell my dad, yo, pipeline's like double overhead, and he'll be like, great, like we're in the middle of Texas. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's 120 degrees here, no water to be seen. But, someday. But I love, and I'm going to go again to California, and I can't wait to surf again. Like, I think it was the most fun part of the retreat. But I love that. It's, I think something that's really important for everybody is that you haven't put limitations on what you can and can't do. You find something you want to do, and you find a way to go and do it. Yes. And there's so many people that are like, they're helping you, that like we had this big crew of surf instructors that were there to help everyone, and they were like the best trained surf instructors I ever met. Like, they have to be, like, they're dealing with all different kinds of girls with different abilities, and they were like, yeah, you can surf. And I ended up, by the end of the day, I was like catching waves on my own, and I didn't even know if I'd be able to surf with a prosthetic leg. That's incredible. And I know we're kind of getting to the end of this story, but I feel like there's still more chapters that have yet to be written. What, going through all these things, and I know you shared a lot with these other groups and gyms and churches and schools and Edward Jones Business Associates, which is wild and crazy to think about how this
thing, I don't know if we call it a tragedy, but this obstacle has created this opportunity for you to help others. What are some things that you want to touch on, some things or advice that you have to these kids that are listening, or to these parents that are listening, or anybody who might be following along with your journey, or just here today for the first time? What do you want to say to them?
Well, one piece of advice that I love to give is that you cannot control what life throws at you. You can't control what happens to you. You can't control the obstacles that are put in front of you, but you can control how you handle it and how you deal with it and how you show the love of God through all of it. That's the only thing you can control in life, is how you react. And so you got to make sure that no matter what's put in front of you, you are shining through it.
That's really incredible. And thank you for taking some time today to share your story, and your credible support system. And we appreciate your time, and excited to watch you keep tumbling, working on fulls, working on sanding tucks.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was fun to be on this podcast.
It was a blast. All right. Talk soon. Till next time.